A Washington state man reportedly admitted shaking his 4-month-old son too rough and has been charged with second-degree murder in relation to the boy's death. Samuel Byron Kennedy, 23 years of age, was arrested on Tuesday after a social worker at the Tacoma Children's Hospital called police to report a child with head trauma had been admitted to the hospital. The baby died from his injuries on Wednesday. Kennedy was arraigned on Friday and entered a not guilty plea. That seems a bit odd. The infant came to Marybridge Children's Hospital by ambulance after emergency medical personnel found the child not breathing. Doctors at the hospital told the social worker that the same child had been brought to the hospital 10 to 15 days earlier with 2 similar injuries. The doctors said the injuries were consistent with abusive head trauma. The social worker told police that Kennedy's attitude did not match the tragedy of his child. He reportedly asked if Child Protective Services had been called and if he was in trouble, at which point he became defensive, insisting that he didn't harm his son. The child's mother said that she and Kennedy have 3 children together, aged 3, 2, and 4 months. They've been married since December after knowing one another for about 4 years. She said she had gone to work on Tuesday and that Kennedy called her a few hours later to say their baby wasn't breathing. As she was on her way home, he told her the child was headed to the hospital. Kennedy reportedly told police initially that his son threw a bottle that hit the younger boy in the head, leaving a small bump. He said he put the boy back in his rocker but heard a deep exhale about 15 to 20 minutes later and discovered the boy wasn't breathing. He went to a downstairs apartment for help from a family member and called 911 from that apartment. Kennedy insisted to investigators that he didn't drop or shake the child and demonstrated how he gave the boy CPR. During this demonstration, the defendant imitated grabbing the victim and lifting him to his eye level and shaking him back and forth. The defendant appeared to realize the actions he was making with his hands and stopped upon realizing this. He then demonstrated placing the victim on his chest and rubbing his back. After further investigation, the defendant was placed under arrest. So essentially, the police asked him how he gave CPR, and Kennedy, with his hand motions, showed that he was shaking his infant child. En route to the jail, Kennedy would yell in distress and say, "I killed my kid." Yeah, he's put in a not guilty plea. During a later interview with investigators, he admitted that he shook the boy too rough and that he started gurgling. He said he had just gotten the baby settled when the other son threw the bottle, waking up the younger boy. That's when he said he effed up and shook him. "I got frustrated. I didn't mean to kill him," Kennedy said. A medical examiner's office has confirmed that the boy died of blunt force trauma to the head. They classified his death as a homicide. Kennedy, the father, is being held on a $1.5 million bond. So first and foremost, this is an absolute tragedy. Rest in peace. The 4-month-old baby boy, we don't know his name, killed by his father, who has admitted shaking him too roughly to the point that he was gurgling. Beyond that, the medical examiner's office has said that the boy died due to blunt force trauma to the head. And with that, his death has been classified as a homicide. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding that. But, my take on that, could be wrong. My take on that is blunt force trauma to the head is different to shaking. So my take on it is the father not only shook the 4-month-old baby boy, his own son, excessively, but seemingly separate to that, he had well, at least somebody had, struck the boy in the head, or, otherwise caused the death of the boy through striking the boy's head. Yeah. Maybe I've got that wrong. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's an absolute tragedy. Of course, full condolences to the mother. Together they had 3 children. They've had 3 children. 3 years old, 2 years old, and tragically the 4-month-old that has now deceased, has now died. Let's hope the investigation continues. He's admitted to having shaken vigorously the 4-month-old, but he's entered a not guilty plea to the charge of murder. Let's hope the investigation is able to get to the bottom of it, and he needs to be banged away for a very, very long time.